Hey Star Trek fans, welcome to the latest episode of Dan's Disco Deep Dives, examining the Easter eggs, hidden bits, canon connections, and theories about the latest episode of Discovery, Season 2, Episode 5, Saints of Imperfection. Saints of Imperfection was written by Kirsten Beyer and directed by David Barrett. The title of this episode comes from a quote by famed director Guillermo del Toro: "Monsters are patron saints of imperfection." There is indeed a monster in this episode, the resurrected Hugh Culber, rescued from the mycelial network by Stamets, Burnham, and Tilly. Just as del Toro does, we love our monsters. Discovery catches up with Spock's shuttle very early in the episode. When the shuttle refuses to acknowledge their hails or power down, Pike orders a Class 5 torpedo fired and detonated 100 meters from the shuttle to disable it. Listen to the sound when the torpedo is fired. This is the same sound effect heard when the photon torpedoes in Star Trek the original series are fired. When Leland from Section 31 contacts Pike, it's obvious that the two have a history. Pike says that the last time he saw Leland, he was, quote, up to his ass in alligators on Ceres III. Longtime Star Trek fans may remember Ceres III as the location of a Gorn attack at the beginning of the original series episode Arena. The planet has also been referenced in later Trek series, most notably Deep Space Nine, where Ceres III is identified as a location of a baseball league, including a team called the Pike City Pioneers. Pike City, of course, was named for Captain Christopher Pike. When the plan to use Discovery as a doorstop into the mycelial network is put forward by Stamets, he warns that everyone must steer clear of the barrier between normal space and the network. People that fail to heed this warning would end up, quote, twisted around the axes of both environments. In other words, they would end up like the crew of the USS Glenn, seen in last season's Context is for Kings. When it appears that Discovery is going to be pulled into the network completely, Tyler calls Section 31 for help by tapping his Section 31 badge. This is clearly a predecessor to the comm badges that Starfleet would use much later in its history. Speaking of nifty Section 31 gadgets, after Tyler calls for help, the Section 31 ship appears, having been using some sort of active camouflage to look like an asteroid or other space debris. This technology is very similar to another camouflage system used by a Romulan drone ship nearly a century earlier, as seen in the Enterprise episodes Babel 1, United, and the Enar. Section 31 gets all the best toys. In order to buy Discovery a few more minutes, Georgiou goes against Leland's orders to maintain the tractor lock between the two ships. Leland agrees when Georgiou threatens to reveal Leland's actions on Deneva that involve doing something to, quote, the wrong ambassador. Deneva is another world seen in the original series. In the episode Operation Annihilate, the Enterprise rids Deneva of a neural parasite infestation. Inhabitants of Deneva included Captain Kirk's brother Sam, as well as his sister-in-law Aurelin, and nephew Peter. At the end of the episode, Admiral Cornwell brings up Article 14 of the Starfleet Charter. As mentioned in the Enterprise episode Divergence, Article 14, Section 31 of the Charter is the clause that Section 31 uses to justify their existence.
Reread the Charter, Article 14, Section 31. There are a few lines that make allowances for bending the rules during times of extraordinary threat.
In that same scene, Cornwell reveals that a science vessel dispatched the coordinates of the red signals from the first two episodes of this season discovered evidence of tachyons. As Leland and Pike point out, tachyons could be the result of time travel, cloaking devices, or transporter activity. In Star Trek's history, tachyons have been used numerous times when dealing with all of the above, as well as an attack on the Q by the Calamarain, as a detection grid to detect cloaked Romulan vessels, as a scan to detect cloaked vessels hiding in a nebula, as a pulse to open transwarp conduits by the Borg, using an inverse tachyon pulse from 3 time periods to scan an anti-time anomaly, which ultimately resulted in its creation, to scan the interior of a singularity. Tachyon eddies propelled ancient Bajoran solar sailing ships to warp speeds. A sustained tachyon beam was proposed to destroy the Cardassian missile Dreadnought, used to disperse a temporal anomaly, used to force a ship to remodulate its shields, and also used to create an artificial micro-wormhole to facilitate communication across the galaxy. Tachyons really are the do-anything particle of the Star Trek universe. Before I get to my theory this week, here are a few comments from viewers on last week's deep dive video on an Obol for Charon. Reinhardt68 has a theory. He says, I feel that the signals and the Red Angels are species it is looking to see if there's anybody that can solve this puzzle. I feel it's almost like a test. Each time they followed one of the red signals, it's brought them to something. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence they were chasing Spock and happened upon this sphere. I feel it's almost reminiscent of when the Q were testing humanity, just not as direct. A really interesting theory, I like that. A few people have brought up the idea that it's a sort of a test. And the sphere, you're right, it could be related to the signals somehow. Maybe Discovery was sent there, the direction of Spock's shuttle was altered to draw Discovery to that location, and perhaps all of this has been a test. Definitely a good theory. Gerard Rubin says, my guess is the Discovery may find the answers they seek concerning the Red Angels in the uploads provided by the alien sphere. I definitely agree with you on that one, Gerard. I think that the information provided by the sphere is definitely going to play some kind of a role later in the season. It's too much of a Chekhov's gun for them to ignore going forward, so I think pouring through that information will yield some sort of answer that they will use later in the season. And finally, I want to draw your attention to a frequent commenter on these videos. Darth Locke always takes the time each week to bring us a truly in-depth analysis of the latest episode of Discovery through the lens of Bad Robot, the production company that Alex Kurtzman used to be a part of. I'm not going to go in-depth into his comments as they really are very long and involved, but I do urge you to check them out yourselves. I was a fan of the television show Lost, and I've really been meaning to watch Alias. I haven't yet, but there's a lot of really interesting connections here that may be true, may not be, but I really like the stuff that Darth Locke has uncovered. So great stuff, Darth Locke, and thank you so much for your insights each week. They really are appreciated. For my theory this week, I'm bringing in one that may have gotten some more legitimacy because of the events of this past episode. The detection of tachyons is the key, and especially with the theory that it has something to do with time travel. Is it possible that the Red Angel is someone we know, who has traveled back in time to influence events and outcomes for some unknown reason? If so, it makes sense that this someone is a person with intimate knowledge of Burnham, Spock, and their family, especially due to the incident where Burnham ran away from home and the Red Angel was able to inform Spock of her location. Therefore, the theory I am putting forward is that the Red Angel is Michael Burnham herself, traveling through time to put right things that once went wrong, a sort of interstellar Dr. Sam Beckett. Why the wings? No idea. Well, that's it for this week's deep dive on Saints of Imperfection, but I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on anything in this video, as well as your theories in the comments below. Thanks as always to the Patreon supporters for helping to bring this video to you. If you want to become a supporter of the channel, go to patreon.com/Kertrats. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to everyone else for liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with anyone you feel would enjoy or appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you on the other side of the mycelial barrier.